morning. It's good to be back with you all today. Morgan and I are tasked with talking through some practicalities today. And the title of this presentation is Partners in Formation, Roles, Responsibilities, and the Road Ahead. And I want to start with scripture because ultimately that is who we partner with first. Deuteronomy 6:5-9 says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. Take to heart these words that I give you today. Repeat them to your children. Talk about them when you're at home or away, when you lie down or get up. Write them down and tie them around your wrist and wear them as headbands as a reminder. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates." We have the opportunity to train, shape, and enjoy our children. We're commanded by the Lord that this opportunity comes with a responsibility. With our hybrid model, you have the opportunity to spend time discussing subjects, discussing the word, and learning with your students. You do this in partnership with the classroom teachers. So if we think about a partnership, what does a partnership mean to you?
People that are working together for the same goal or more than one person.
Two or more people working together for the same goal. Does one person have more influence than the other, or are they equal in a partnership?
Both.
Both. It can be both, right? And what makes things one-sided?
If one is more invested than the other,
That will make a difference, yes. If one's more invested than the other, what else makes a difference in a partnership?
they have different roles.
If they have different roles. Good. What else makes a difference in a partnership?
Gifts.
Different giftings, absolutely. The Lord gives us all different gifts, and that can affect how a partnership works together. Okay.
Expectations.
Expectations. Boy, that word always gets in the way, doesn't it? In good ways and negative ways, right? It can work both ways. Okay, good. Now, if we think of that word formation, what does that mean? It's a harder one to define, isn't it?
Form is about shape. So shape.
Mm-hmm.
So the process of making a certain shape.
Making a certain shape. So what are we forming?
Heart.
We're forming hearts. What is our goal? I'm going deep early, aren't I? What's our goal?
Provide classical education with combining French language.
To combine classical education, combining Christ-centered focus with academic excellence. We are forming young people to know God and to make Him known to others through our pursuits. Is our formation goal the same for teachers and co-teachers? Hopefully, we're all on the same page, right? And so that's why we can say we are partners in formation. With this partnership, we all have opportunities. As staff, we have opportunities to invest in these young people God has entrusted to your care. And you'll have opportunities to partner with staff and to invest and to know what's happening with your young people. But with great opportunity also comes some responsibility. And so Morgan and I are going to work today to share what our parent-student handbook says, and then what that looks like practically between this partnership and this sharing between staff and between parents.
All right, she did go deep right off the bat, so we're all primed and ready for that. But we need more interaction, so I would like, if you have been a co-teacher for more than a year, would probably be good, to give us, what do you say your responsibilities are? Like if you were to explain to someone else what your responsibilities as a co-teacher are, what would you say? Okay, to teach.
Right, it's different depending on the age of the child, but
Absolutely.
especially the older years, I think sometimes it's to take it more deeper and practical level and apply it at home, whether you're taking those lessons, whether they're mathematical or historical or whatever, and take those conversations to a different level that you can't necessarily do in the classroom, but personally applying it to your life and reflecting it out as a parent on how that affects how I live as someone who's postgraduate and what that actually means on a personal level in our family.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much individualized teaching, right? You know your student, you have your own experiences that you get to bring, so you get to lead and direct in a way that we can't necessarily do in the classroom with all the students at the same time. What else are your responsibilities as co-teachers? Complete the work. Check the boxes. What else?
To communicate with the teachers.
Yes. Yes, to communicate. Mrs. Watkins, you've been a co-teacher for a long time. Anything you could add?
Yeah, call me out.
Yep, yep, you know I will.
I was gonna say the one that she said, make sure the work gets done.
Make sure that gets done.
But yeah, also it's very individualized. I've got a young one, and so with any of the grammar school students, you really have to be like sit with them one-on-one and make sure that they are doing the work to the best of their ability, that they are kind of a lot of time management, learning time management skills and priorities.
Absolutely. Yes,
And
prioritizing.
kind of also like reading the room in a way. So knowing when your child needs breaks and not feeling like you have to get everything done by lunchtime or just being able to utilize whatever time you do have. Sometimes we have meetings or things in the morning that we have to kind of do some work before that meeting and then maybe like do some more after and then maybe have lunch for a break, get some outside time. Like that's what the end one.
Yeah.
And just kind of, you know your child best and know what they need.
Yeah.
But then I also have one who's into high school now, but still at the top of the logic school. And so for him, it's more of a guide. And I typically don't really see a lot of what he does right now because he's so independent that it's more like, did you get your math done? Did you get your history done? Or let's look at the Google Doc and make sure that you have everything done that you say you have done. Yeah, things like that.
Absolutely. Good. I'm also going to call them Mrs. Monteith and Mrs. Ashwood because you both have been good. Thank you. Could you either of you add anything to what's been?
Which Sean and who?
Mrs. Ashwood.
Do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Anything additional that you could add to what has been shared so far?
I mean, I think being an encourager is really important. I think that there are going to be times when your child gets frustrated. I have said, I'm sitting on panels, especially for those grammar school kids and for the older kids, sing more. Even if you are a terrible singer. We were talking the other day how memory works better with song. Just sing more at home. Sing the jingles with your kids. Don't look at them and think that they're going to think you're dumb to sing the songs or you'll look silly. Sing the songs and be silly and engage. I think too, and again, we discussed this, modeling what we are asking our students to do ourselves.
Absolutely.
So if we are asking our students to be excited about math, guess what? We have to be excited about math. If we are asking our students to dive into the word and care about what God says about what happened in the course of history, then we need to care about what's happening in the course of history. And so being that first person in the household that is doing the things that Trinity says is important shows integrity. How's Joan of Arc?
All the way.
Right? It really does. It shows integrity in what we're asking them to do. And I think that is a big encouragement to them. Because then they're going to see you fail or they're going to see you not do things well and say, oh, I really should have finished that book last night that I wanted to finish last night, or they'll say, didn't you know that we just read this? Didn't you read that passage with me? Well, no, I didn't get it read. You know, like
Right.
just being honest and working through those things and being an example and encourager.
Yeah, that's very good. Mrs. Ashwood? No, you guys, that was really good. You covered a very wide range of things. You talked about some things like when you mentioned the word just teach, like if we were to try to describe what we do in a classroom, so much of what you were describing, like Mrs. Watkins was explaining some of the things that you are doing, like we do those things in a classroom, the time management in the room and redirecting or whatever the case might be, you know, that's what you're doing, the same things at home that we're doing in the classroom. And what Mrs. Montine was just talking about, what Mrs. Runyon was saying, like those are overall kind of parental things that you do day in and day out, you know, encouraging your child, being an example, taking opportunities to go deeper, go in a different direction. Those are opportunities that you're given. And so this beautiful model allows us to partner together in this endeavor. So there are on your table some sheets. Hopefully, if there's not enough, I apologize for that. But there were some sheets where it has listed what the expectations are for co-teachers to expect from teachers here at Trinity. And so we're going to kind of talk through that a little bit. And some of this is going to be super familiar, but I want to give some examples, some practical examples of what this looks like. Feel free to take some notes as you go. Yeah, use that on the front table right there. Does everybody have enough, or do we need to get some more copies? Okay, all right. So firstly, it says that parents can expect that teachers will support co-teachers in the following ways. Firstly, that we will clearly communicate written weekly lesson plans for off-campus instruction. This looks first and foremost like the weekly lesson overview, also known as the Google Doc, that is sent out from the office via email every Monday. This goes to all of our co-teachers as well as Logic Rhetoric School students whose families have said that it's okay for them to receive that document. And we as teachers are responsible for putting on there kind of some bare bones plans to show you what we're doing in a week. The big thing to note is a living document. So depending on what happens in the classroom, what I plan to happen on Thursday, by the time Thursday comes, may or may not exactly take place. So I do always recommend, don't print it out on Monday and think that that's what it's going to be exactly. I would definitely refer to it on Wednesdays and Fridays, but I wouldn't print it earlier in the week. It does contain those basic lesson plans. It may contain links to various activities or something else where you need to reference. For the grammar school, that also has folders for answer keys, specifically with math and grammar. We understand that parents may need to access those, so we keep those available to you through that. You can also expect to get, in the grammar school, actual assignment sheets sent home on Tuesdays and Thursdays that lay out what those lessons are in more detail for Wednesdays and Fridays. So usually teachers will have more detail on their specifics. Those may reference other things too, like sometimes in my class, I might say, see the Google Doc for a link to blah, blah, blah. So that's the way that we communicate those lesson plans. Another thing to note is that what we send home for a Wednesday and a Friday for grammar school, and then for Logic and Rhetoric on a Friday, these aren't what a lot of us would know as typical homework. A lot of us went to a school where we had assignments sent as homework, but that's not exactly what we're providing you with on a Wednesday and a Friday. We are handing you our lesson plans. We're saying that this is, if your student was in the classroom this day, this is how we would teach through a lesson. So we're actually asking you to teach through or lead a student through a lesson. It isn't just homework for them to complete independently. Does that make sense? As students, somebody had mentioned like it changes or it differs, whether your student is in second grade or whether they're in seventh grade or whether they're in 10th grade, what they're capable of doing on their own. For the younger students, you will often have to do more hand-holding. Sitting right beside them will keep through something the entire time. As they gain some more independence, there are some things they can do independently, and you can have less oversight. However, even in fourth grade, there are things where I will say, you know, with a co-teacher, please read a chapter, whatever, in your history book or your literature book, and discuss and narrate that passage or that chapter. And it's very intentional. Like the fourth grader can read that by themselves. They don't necessarily need you to help them read it, but they do need you to help when it comes to them narrating to you or discussing, trying to dig deeper with what it is. So teachers try to be pretty intentional about how they want those lessons carried out. Next, we will provide co-teachers and students with the resources needed to complete those off-campus lesson plans. So I want to say that everything that we are capable of as teachers to give you to have a successful day of school at home or school at home, we will do. That's our goal. Absolutely. The plans, the links, the answer keys. The other thing though is ourselves. We want to give you what we can of ourselves. In grammar school, this looks like you knowing when your teacher is available for you to reach out and how to reach out. Text, phone, email. If you haven't gotten that communication yet, ask the homeroom teacher. How can I reach you? When can I reach you? When is it okay for us to ask questions? Logic rhetoric school teachers, those kids are here Monday through Thursday, but on Fridays, teachers are to be available to those students and to the co-teachers. So students actually can reach out directly to their teachers, but so can co-teachers. Any questions there about availability? Next, we will provide co-teachers with answer keys. That was already brought up, but this is specific. Again, just want to point out, like with grammar or math, we recognize that not everybody is as skilled in one way or another. And so having those answer keys can be really crucial. And we know that, so we want to provide you with that. Don't think that we're trying to not provide you with what you need. So now with older students, you're not going to see that. You're not going to see answer keys linked on their Google Doc. But if you do have specific questions about like a specific outcome, a lot of their assignments don't have like an answer key to even provide. So, but if you need direction on what the teacher might be looking for, you can always reach out and ask. You can expect us to communicate communicate expectations, rubrics, and timelines in a timely manner. This looks like us letting you know when there's a project coming up, especially with the grammar school students. We're not going to only communicate with the students about something like the wax museum or their leaf collection. We recognize that a 9-year-old isn't necessarily going to be responsible enough to remember all of those timelines. So you can expect for us to be able to share that with you. And again, we're asking you to partner with us in making sure those things take place. Now, with the upper school, those students are communicated with directly from their teachers about the expectations, about deadlines, due dates, all of those things. That doesn't mean they're always going to remember or communicate those things to their co-teachers. So again, if you're a co-teacher of a logic or rhetoric school student, it's okay for you to reach out and say, Johnny said that this is due at this time. Is that accurate? Or something of that nature. Or can you explain more about this timeline of when this part of the paper is due or this part of the science project is due? Next, we will maintain an open line of communication to clarify lesson plans, to problem solve, and to encourage co-teachers. This open line of communication, though, is a reciprocal responsibility. It goes both ways. If you have questions, please ask us. We want you to come to us. We want to have those conversations. We want you to try to foster relationships with us as much as we are trying to foster relationships with you. It was touched on yesterday in the first session with Mr. Miller about God being who we ultimately answer to in this school, right? We are so privileged to be in an organization where this partnership falls under the headship of Christ. So we have biblical standards on how to communicate, how to resolve conflict, and all of those things. So it's just a blessing. So let's not take that lightly. And let's remember that we don't have to, our relationships as teachers and parents doesn't have to look like any other school. Okay, it's unique. We have highlighted to you as best as we can that Trinity honors your role as the primary teacher for your children. If for some reason you can't complete a lesson the way that it was written, or you choose not to for a specific reason, maybe something happens that day and you can't accomplish what needed to be accomplished, or maybe your student has some specific needs that day and you have altered something on the lesson plan. That's fine. We honor and respect what you have decided. We just need to know that information. So we just ask that you communicate back to us, whether that's writing a note on their assignment sheet, whether that's sending a text or an email, just saying, we didn't complete this or we changed this, because it just helps us when we go into the next day's lessons. Some things do build upon each other. So if a student hasn't read, maybe something happened and you had to leave home and you forgot the literature book, they didn't get to read their chapter. That's okay. But if the activity we're going to do in class the next day is about that chapter, if I know ahead of time, I can do something to kind of pivot and move through that. Does that make sense? We will suggest opportunities for lesson extension or the needing for concepts to be retaught. So this looks like sometimes seeing a teacher will provide an optional activity. And I always tell my students that when you're at home on Wednesday and Friday, yes, I wrote that lesson plan, but your co-teacher is responsible for how that gets carried out. So they can rewrite it. So they can erase that word or mark out that word that says optional and make you do that work if they think that it's necessary. Same thing like with a need that a student has, like maybe in math, you're seeing that there's a particular concept that they're struggling with or something of that nature. You shouldn't hear about that at a parent-teacher conference for the first time. You shouldn't see a bad grade on a report card and be like, oh, I had no idea they were struggling in history. You should expect communication from us up front about that as quickly as we can. It kind of works both ways though. You're working with them on Wednesdays and Fridays. So if you're seeing something that's grammar school, Fridays for logic rhetoric, if there's something you're aware of, don't assume that we know. We would hope that we know, but we may not. So please reach out. I'm noticing that I had to reteach this concept, or I'm noticing that you sent home corrections with this particular math problem being wrong multiple times. Make sure that you reach back out to us and let us know that we need to readdress that. And then adjusting lesson plans as necessary to meet student needs to support student growth, which is kind of what I was just expanding to. So maybe that looks like retaking a test. Maybe that means changing the requirements for, especially with younger children. Maybe some students don't have the capacity for writing like other students do. So maybe we change the way an assignment has to be delivered, things like that. Now, I've had the privilege and challenge of being both the grammar school teacher who is trying to equip co-teachers to be successful at home, but I've also been the co-teacher at home with logic and rhetoric school students. And so I see that as students grow and as they change, this whole process changes. And so what's expected of me as the parent at home is different, whether my student is in 7th grade versus 12th grade. Mrs. Watkins touched on some of what it's like for the logic rhetoric school stage with that change. But Mrs. Spangler, as one of our teachers for logic rhetoric school, is going to come and share a little bit more about that. But I want to leave you with, in thinking through some of these things, that the truth of those verses in Deuteronomy is beautiful because God chose each one of us to be the parents of the children he gave us. So you may not have abilities in everything. You may not be good at grammar. That's okay. You're not going to fail your child because you're not good at grammar. Your child, whatever their abilities, their difficulties, their talents, you have what it takes to give them what they need. God ordained that. And so we can rest in that, and we can find comfort in the trouble, in the times when we are struggling, when we don't know how to do the math problem and we need to reach out. It's okay. All right.
I want to add to that because that statement's true for high school too. So whenever you have fear or trepidation about upper math or upper sciences, or maybe writing wasn't your thing, trusting that God has called you to such a time as this, and that He will give you all you need for each and every day is really important. I think sometimes we can get bogged down by the details and lose sight of that big picture. Ultimately, that's why I talked at the very beginning about our main goal. Our main goal is to have that relationship and that they know God and will make Him known. And we are working to equip them to do whatever God has called them to do in their life. But that doesn't mean we have to be the expert in everything. So in the logic and rhetoric school, as I was listening to Morgan talk, for our new teachers, I want to make sure you understand our terminology. So grammar school is pre-K through 6th. Logic school is 7th, 8th, and 9th. And rhetoric school is 10th, 11th, and 12th. And we kind of group that logic rhetoric school together because there's some similarities there, but that's what our breakdown is. So when Morgan was talking about grammar school procedures and responsibilities, that's mainly 6th grade on down. And what I'm talking about is 7th grade. So when your student moves from 6th grade to 7th grade, a lot of new things take place. So they get a schedule and they're responsible for their schedule. They move from room to room. They now have a locker and a padlock, although most don't use the padlock. And for the first time in 7th grade, the teacher is not telling them where they go when. And that's a big change for students. So you as parents, particularly for those 7th and 8th graders, you're helping them navigate the fact that now I don't just have one homeroom teacher. I have a lot of teachers to communicate with, and they're all giving me assignments, and I've got to keep all these papers organized, and I don't have a cubby in a room. I've got my own locker that I may or may not attend to very well. And you're going to have to help kind of manage that paper trail or that notebook that begins to explode with papers, and teach some organizational skills, some time management skills, and how they are going to track and be responsible. Because as they move for that 7th through 12th grade, we expect them to be responsible and accountable for the work that they need to do. And so you are our partners in that. And I think it's important to remember that your role in that is really valuable. We need your help in checking to make sure assignments are completed, following up. Now, you may not be sitting side by side, one-on-one with that student. You may be. Like, if your student is in tears over a math lesson, they need you. They need you to intercede. And maybe you don't know this concept either, but you can ask some questions to help them. We have some help videos on how to ask good questions. When you don't know how to teach the lesson yourself, you can ask, okay, what do you know about this problem? What are some things you learned? Did you take any notes in class? Let's pull those out. Do you know where the notes are? Okay? Holding them responsible to the fact that they need to be stewarding that time in class well so that we can help you at home, right? And if they did not, encourage them to do so. We need you to, if there's a big paper due, to say once in a while, how are you coming on that paper? Are we procrastinating it to that end due date? What are your checkpoints? Have you met those? And if you're getting vague answers, reach out to the co-teachers. They can help you with that, okay? To know what's going on, particularly if you have an uncommunicative child, like sometimes those, some students just want to take that responsibility themselves, and I've got this, and you want to know what's going on. That's why you get the Google Doc. and it outlines what's happening in each class. It is a wonderful privilege as your student goes through 7th through 12th grade. You get to watch them mature. You get to watch them be able to wrestle with big ideas. And I encourage you to ask good questions, to have good conversations with your students about what they're learning. And as Mrs. Runyon said, apply it to your family, apply it to your faith. We graduate beautiful young people who can think well and who can articulate their thoughts well, and you need to enjoy the fruit of that too. So look forward to those conversations that you will have as your young people develop. So we want to give you about 5 minutes or so to reflect and to write some notes about some ideas you have heard that you would like to work on or to implement to encourage your student or to develop strong co-teacher relationships. And we're going to give you a little bit of time to work on that. But before we do, are there any general questions about Logic Rhetoric School? I think sometimes our co-teachers get comfortable in that 6th grade, and then it's scary to think about your student managing everything and moving from place to place. And okay, you can think questions, and if you have any, we're going to have a question and answer time after you reflect. So spend about 5 minutes, write yourself some goals, reflect on some things you've heard that you might want to implement at your in your own home. Write any questions you might have.
Okay, it kind of looks like most of us have stopped writing. So a couple things here. If you want to share something that you wrote, insights that you had, or ideas for how you're going to implement some specific things at home, we'd like to hear those if you're willing to share. But we also want to open this up to questions that you might have that we didn't really address directly. And teachers, you too, like in your experience, if there's something that you feel needs to be shared that we didn't touch on, you could share that as well.
Can I just share something?
Sure.
So, as you were talking, and you both said this, and I just want to stress how important communication is.
Since you're up front, there's people in the back.
I just wanted to stress how important communication is. We have a place for notes on our checklists each day, and often nothing is written. And so it's good for us to hear. They really enjoyed this assignment, or we struggled with this, or we weren't able to get done today because of. Those kind of things really help us to know, because if you ask your class, did you do this? And someone say no, but we didn't know that ahead of time. It is a huge change for us to deal with that day's class. And also, if you have something that didn't show up in your folder, check with the teacher first and before you put it on Facebook. Oh, we didn't get this. Just because maybe it was in the folder when we left school, or maybe I can just email you one or fax something not fax, we don't do that anymore. But make sure that you have a link to it if you cannot find that link. So that's just what came to my mind.
Yeah, that's good. We definitely, we are so thankful that we have a family, right? And so when this 4th grade parent reaches out to this 4th grade parent, that's good. But we want we're here for you, right? We want you to come to us first. Let us, and in a lot of times, I'll be honest, from me, it'll come out that I forgot to send something home. And I want to be responsible for that, and I want to take ownership of that. So rather than, this person talking to this person talking to this person, if you come to me first, I might be like, oh, yep, there they are, sitting right there on my desk.
To partner with that, encourage your Logic Rhetoric students to reach out to the teacher, not to all their peers. Because if the whole group is stuck on it, then they come to class and you're not ready to move forward. And I don't know how many times I said, did any of you email me? did any of you ask me the question? We could have fixed this. And so likewise, logic rhetoric, ask your student, did you email your teacher, let them know you were struggling? Because sometimes the peers all struggle together, which is fine. Then we need to regroup on that, but giving the teacher a heads up will help.
Anything else? Questions? Does anybody want to share something that they're going to try to implement this year?
I wrote down read the Google Doc. I have, he was a sophomore last year. It's my last one, and he's strong and independent, and he's a good student. And it is really easy to be like, I am so busy. He gets this. I just delete it.
I will be
But-
I was like that too with Eli. He was pretty independent. Now he was not always good though about following through and keeping himself organized. And I
Well,
came to
no, no teenage boy.
but I was like, okay, my responsibility. I really I would read this more frequently.
Right. Well, it's just to guide me to answer.
Yes.
I can't ask good questions if I haven't read the Google Docs and I'm relying on him to communicate. And
Yes.
He's a teenager. He's not always, even though he's my one that communicates the most. So I just read the Google Docs every week. Just read it.
Just read it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing, but that's,
No.
when life gets in the way and I get that email, it's really easy to just skip it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't read the Google Doc much either. I have a senior this year, and she's always been very independent, but I was saying that when our students have been taught to do things and enjoy the fruit of that. Like, I see that. It's such a beautiful thing. And Amy, if I do talk to her about what to do on command, what's going on, or she'll just bring it up. But she's a girl, on the other hand, she'll talk. And, just the conversations we have and what the deepness of her thinking and what she's learned and how she's thought about applying it to her whole life. And she'll share with me Mrs. Monti's thoughts or Velynna's thoughts. And I mean, it's incredible how she thinks, and she's told me many times, thank you for sending me that. Because she sees that,
Blessing.
sees her thought processes, and she's so thankful for that. Yeah. And
Yeah, we love hearing things like that and having those opportunities to know that our students are taking things that they're hearing and learning, whether it's in a classroom with us or it's a reading at home, but they're making connections and they want to share and they're excited to share what they're learning.
all I do want to say, incoming freshman, and I do read his Google Docs. There's things that I don't. I think we will. Amy's been able to.
Yeah.
Mostly. She'll tell me what she wants.
Other thoughts or ideas, things you want to share with the group? Almost up. Anybody from Shemai?
As you were writing, Mrs. Montine brought up something that she felt like we should share, and I agree with her. We had an opportunity to partner with a family with some personal issues, particularly with technology and computer use this past year. So know that it doesn't just have to be conversations about academics. If you're having struggles with technology or any personal things, come to the teachers, the homeroom teacher, or any of us in the Logic Rhetoric School. We have team meetings regularly and we pray for the students, but we want to partner with families. So if you're battling things at home and feel like we need to be observant of that, please communicate those things. Okay. I think we're done. And if you don't have anything else to share or any other questions or concerns, we're a little bit early, so you get a little bit longer break to stretch your legs and to visit. So thank you all for being here today and for being good participants and listeners. Enjoy the rest of your morning.